Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds by nerds, I'm Nerd Steve, and today I'm joined by Sarah, the Hype Goblin.
Hi, everybody.
If you could be so kind to kind of just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
I am Sarah. I'm the Hype Goblin. You can find me under that on all social media, even Facebook now. I caved and I got a Facebook. I do fantasy cosplays of my TTRPG characters, and I do silly little TikToks, and I create live streams with my friends. And I never know what to say about myself to sell myself, so I'm sorry that this is so awkward.
It's okay.
It doesn't get better from here.
You're in the right place. You're in the right place.
Thank goodness. But yeah, I do a lot of TTRPG streaming of a homebrew campaign over on Twitch and YouTube. And we're getting ready to do Numenera, and we just wrapped Super Prom, which is our Masks the New Generation TTRPG. That was the other one we did. Yeah.
So you created quite a bit of content over on TikTok, and it's mostly just cosplaying your original characters.
Yes, I have done some actual characters. I did a version of Poison Ivy that a lot of people got a good chuckle out of. I did her kind of as a social justice eco warrior instead of doing like the typical sexy Ivy that everyone does. Because I don't do the sexy characters. I like to make them fun and goofy. So I did Ivy, and I also did Wednesday Addams this Halloween, and she was a lot of fun to do.
Your Ivy sounds more more back to the roots of, I guess, pun intended, to Ivy to begin with, right? Isn't that she started out? She's pissed off about the environment.
Yeah, like I get the whole, like, I get why the femme fatale works with the DC women. Like, I totally get it, and that's cool. But those costumes are not my bag. I very much like the older, campier, pun-filled. I grew up with Adam West as Batman, so I like those types of DC characters. I've been asked a lot to do like a Mary Jane Watson cosplay, and I know everyone wants like modern Mary Jane Watson, but I'm gonna give you Mary Jane Watson from the '90s cartoon with the ugly purple sweater, turtleneck with the yellow cardigan over it. Like, it's not going to be anything that's particularly appealing to the majority of the Spider-Man audience.
Now, I feel like you're not really old enough to have grown up with the Adam West Batman, and it had to have been inflicted upon you.
How old do you think I am?
I feel like you could easily be a good 10, 20 years younger than me.
I'm 32.
Yeah.
No, I did. It was, I don't know. It was obviously wasn't originally airing. But watching the old Wonder Woman and Batman shows, that was an easy thing on. It wasn't Nick at Night. But it was one of those late night. They came on after I Love Lucy. I didn't really care for I Love Lucy at the time, but I like Lucille Ball now. But they came on at a time that was convenient for my parents to just sit me in front of the TV with my dinner. And that's what I grew up on.
Nice. So we are talking beforehand, and you mentioned you're kind of new to gaming, the D&D anyway.
I am. I didn't play my first game of D&D, which was my first TTRPG ever, until 2019.
And how did that come about?
My best friend was in a streamed game called Four Keeps over on Indoor Adventures Twitch channel, which is still ongoing. Very good. If anyone wants a homebrew game. And I was just, kind of in my feelings one night, and I messaged her and I was like, "Hey, I'm bored. Do you want to talk?" And she said, "No, I can't. I have the show that I'm on. Why don't you watch it, and we can like chat in the chat." So I did that, and I got involved in the community because I got hooked off of this campaign that I very much enjoyed. And one day, after being in the community for a few months, I mentioned that, hey, I think D&D is cool. I still don't really understand it, but I did get the player's handbook. Is anyone running a game or anything anytime soon? And the channel owner, Indoor Adventures himself, DM'd me and said, "Hey, do you want to play your first game live on stream?" Which I should have said no to. In hindsight, do not do that. It is a bad idea. There's a lot you have to learn in D&D. But I played a very, very awkward game of D&D for about 4 hours live on stream.
You
And
know,
that's where it started.
trial by fire, and it's the best way to learn anything. I feel like most of my jobs were like that.
I I don't know what I don't know if I just have a face that says like throw her in the deep end.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like the majority of the things that I've done publicly, I've just gotten like thrown in feet first, and they're just like, hope you can swim. Here you go, kid.
I can
Figure it out.
I can sympathize and empathize with that so much. Like I worked as a personal trainer, um, and I remember when I first started, like, for like day one, like here's some clients, just go. And then like
Hmm.
I'd work there for a while, and they're like, hey, this person's gonna shadow you for 2 weeks. Like, what? Shadow me for 2 weeks? where
Yeah,
where was my shadow?
right.
Period.
I just get handed like the manual, and I sit
Yeah,
and told to figure it out, and then I'm training someone. Like,
yeah,
where does this confidence come from that they think I have?
yeah. So weird. So
Hmm.
so how was that experiencing playing your first game on stream? Like, I know, just like, playing my first game on stream, not my first game, is
Hmm.
kind of like distracting because you have the chat going on, and like you're aware that you're not just playing the game, you're also kind of a part of a show.
Yeah, there was no pressure on me to be entertaining, which I'm very thankful for. And that particular community is one that is very rooted in just being a loving, caring, supportive community. So they didn't care that it was taking me 5 minutes to figure out what I was supposed to be doing in combat, and everyone at the
Yeah.
table was explaining to me, like, yes, you're going to rage as your bonus action, and reminding me every single time like I had to do something, like, don't forget you need to do this. So there's a lot of hand holding that happened, which I am very thankful for.
A,
Um,
a lot of our like in-person games are like that. When we have
mhm.
like a new player, like we'll just sit them next to a more experienced player.
Yeah.
But it's a little harder to do that on a stream.
Oh, definitely. I think that's why one of the other characters, or one of the other players, I had no idea what to play. So one of the other players like sat down with me on a Discord call like earlier
Yeah.
that week and was like, "Look, barbarian is going to be the easiest thing you can play at this level. All you do is you rage and you hit things. That's all you have to do."
Oh, what
So
level did you
that's
start at?
I think it was a one shot. I think it was level 7. I don't know. I'd have to go back
Yeah.
on the VODs and check that out. But I'm pretty sure it was level 7. It wasn't very high, but it was where you have a lot of like fun things.
I
And they
don't.
didn't.
Beyond level one, your first
Mhm.
game and on a stream, I feel like that's all a lot. Like, that's not just jump into the deep end. There's like, hey, jump into the deep end and here, hold these weights while you do it.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I think because I did that, I wasn't scared when I started streaming my own things of streaming. It kind of got my that trial by fire. Like once you do that, something like that, where people are watching you for entertainment and you're also
Yeah.
learning in real time. By the time I started like getting my stuff together to run my own stream on my own channel, I was like, you know what is what it is. Can't be any worse than the first game I played. That means it's good.
This is good. Yeah. How long was it from, being on your first stream, your first D&D game, to actually putting streams on your own channel?
I originally just started out with my PlayStation 4 doing video game content. And it was honestly just people in that same community coming and just hanging out and talking to me in my chat. No face cam, no
Yeah.
overlays, just what PS4 gave me, that's what I was working with. And I started doing that with a lot of Skyrim content. And then from there, I put Windows on my MacBook laptop and started streaming from that with my laptop propped up and a keyboard attached to it, which was not a great experience for streaming, let alone gameplay. And it was probably almost a full year later. It wasn't until the pandemic started that I started streaming TTRPG content, and that was just because I was bored and I had the time to figure it out, and I had people who wanted to do it that didn't have anything else to do. So we started Nexus Adventures, which was also more than I think I could chew at the time. Our DM, the wonderful and brilliant Alyssa Vamp, wanted to not only homebrew a world for us, but she wanted to DM a campaign for the first time.
Yeah.
So we started out with we started our campaign with pre-written one-shots, which she linked together with this concept that we were dealing with magical crystals and they were just teleporting us all around. So whenever we would find one, something would happen, it would go off, and boom, you're in the next adventure. And I think we did 4 or 5 one-shot adventures like that, just so she could kind of start testing the waters and getting her feet wet and making sure this was what she really wanted to do before we really hit the ground running and created this homebrew world together, actually. We've all written different parts of her world that we play in. And from there, it just didn't stop.
What character are you playing in that game?
I play Lucy, which I don't know how I'm framed on the live stream, but she is back here on the mannequin behind me. She is the second character that I ever created for D&D. She is now a Blade Singer wizard with multiclass with Pact of the Blade Warlock, and she is sassy and so much fun.
Yeah, she is just slightly out of frame.
Yeah, that's fine. Go to TikTok, you'll see me there.
TikTok, YouTube, you'll see plenty of Lucy there all over the place.
Yeah.
Is that the one you have the most videos of?
I think now, yes. When I first started, I was doing all of the characters that I was playing in different campaigns, including my private home campaigns. So for a while, I was rotating because I just had so much free time. I was rotating between 3 different characters. So every single day, a post of each character would go up when I first started. But yeah, for now, I think she's the oldest character on there. My very first character TikTok was of her. It's just me in a blonde wig and a white t-shirt. Nothing to really shake a stick at with my original content, but it's still there. You can go see it. It's not good. We all start somewhere.
Everything has to start someplace.
Yeah, I recently did. For those who aren't on TikTok, the whole shtick of TikTok is that you take audio that isn't necessarily your own and you lip sync to it. And I recently went back and I went to those first videos and I paired myself with them as my character now. And I kind of did a side-by-side comparison. And it was really cool to do that as an exercise, both for myself and for the people who follow me. Because there's definitely a trend over on TikTok of people wanting to create original characters and wanting to create full cosplays of them. And, you know, whenever you're doing something creatively, you see the people who are at the end stage with the higher level skill sets and you go, oh, I could never do that. That's not me. I could never do foam smithing or, you know, weapons building. And that was just my way of saying, all right, look here, younglings, you can do it too. This is where I started. You can work your way up the food chain as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very helpful. I think I just saw one recently where it's the Lucy character, and then the other character, I don't know the name of the other character, but it's very mushroom themed. Oh,
that's Lowry Moon. That is the hat that's currently behind my head, which should be in frame up on my bookshelf. Yes. She is a hag in training and a spore blood druid. Hex blood spore druid. Sorry. She is who I'm currently playing in a Wild Beyond the Witchlight campaign on the channel where I got my start Indoor Adventures. We play Sunday nights. So I play Lucy at 10 a.m. and at 10 p.m. I am playing Lowry Moon Eastern Standard Time.
And how did she become a hag intern?
So I really like playing against stereotypes, and hags in D&D are typically stereotyped as evil or neutral at best. You very rarely see a good hag or a good witch of the woods unless it's something like obviously homebrewed. So I really wanted to play against that type that all hags were bad. And the characters that I'm playing with are leaning into that because there's already been stories of like them being in the Feywild and having to deal with hags that were evil. But Lowry is a staunchly good character. Her coven is a staunchly good coven. And they just work to make the world a better place. And they may not have the best PR, but they're just here. They're here to help. And they make deals, but not to the extreme that other hags do. And the way that I've framed her as a character is similar to Clarence the Angel on Miracle on 34th Street. So with Clarence, he had to help so many people on Earth before he could receive his angel wings. And he's at his very last person that he has to help. And that's why that it's such a pivotal story for that character. So I did the same thing with Lowry. I went and said, you know what? What if I have this hag and she has to complete so many deals before she gets her hag's hut? So she is on this journey to complete these deals, and she's very good natured, very, very kind hearted. So she tends to help people out and forget to ask for them to make an actual deal with her. So it's taking her longer than most, but she is slowly on her journey to becoming a hag.
Good hags. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
You don't see that too often.
Yeah. The concept of the hag being evil is something that's very much rooted in the same things as like when we study the Salem witch trials, which is it was all about oppression of women. And that's something that's kind of carried over into stories and folklore about hags. So, I mean, there's nothing necessarily evil about anyone in the world. Like that's why the world is so great, so diverse, so wonderful. So it's never made sense to me to have characters or to have races even that are evil. So in any game I play in or any game I DM, and you won't see a race that's just evil. There's going to be people who make bad decisions, but I mean, they also might be running a charity for orphans on the side. Like it's all about perspective. So I'm sure she's the villain in someone's story. I'm sure the hags that we're going to deal with who are evil in Wild Beyond the Witchlight, I'm sure they'll view her as a bad guy. But from my point of view and Lowry's point of view, she always does the best that she can to just make things right for people.
How many games are you currently involved in?
Let's see. Okay. Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday. I'm currently in 4.
Are you players in all of them?
Yes. Yeah. I'm not DMing right now just because I am in so many. It's come down. At the height of the pandemic, I was in 6 a week.
You had a whole extra day to do whatever you wanted with. So
yeah, I did. I had a rest day. So yeah, it's coming down. It's going to go up to 5 when we start running Numenera on my channel. But yeah, right now I'm at 4, and until I'm out of my 2 private games, I don't think I'll DM much other than doing one shots here and there when my stream DMs need a break or my other tables need breaks.
Have you played Numenera before or any other Cypher System games?
I have not. I've read the introduction to Numenera. I can see the chat. My friend Jen, who's going to be running the game, is in chat. I promise I'll do my homework. I'm telling on myself right now.
You don't need to know everything before you go into it. That's fine.
Right?
I've not played Numenera. I've read one of the novels, which was pretty good. And I've played, several Cypher System games, which is, it's weird because Cypher System is the generic version of Numenera that they reverse engineered. So I understand the system and that's, it's a lot of fun, but I haven't actually played in the world of Numenera yet, which I also think is a really cool world. So you'll probably have a lot of fun with that.
I'm really looking forward to it. I've gotten some info via Jen, the DM. She's told me that everyone has some sort of modification. So I think figuring those sorts of things out and seeing how that plays out in the world is going to be really, really interesting. But yeah, I'm just really excited to get into something that isn't necessarily wizards and witches and all that.
Do you know what you're going to play?
No. I should really figure it out. It's going to start in like a month.
You got plenty of time.
I'll figure out once we get the table together.
I'm like, I will probably finish my character like right before showing up to whatever game we're playing. So
Yeah, I tried to do some cosplay marketing when we started Witchlight. I started posting up videos about Lowry Moon ahead of time to drive interest to the game. So I should probably figure out something pretty soon in case I have to sew something. But
how many games are you currently streaming?
2.
Two of the 4, so half of them.
Yeah. Sunday is my stream TTRPG days. Just it wasn't intended to be that right now, but it just worked that way.
So you're playing 2 games on Sunday?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I play at 10 a.m. and then again at 10 p.m.
Oh, you get a little break in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I take a nap.
And how long are your games usually?
Nexus usually runs for about 3 hours. Sometimes we go over that because you get a combat that runs a little long, and then you have 30 minutes left, and you don't want to carry it over. And then I believe Witchlight consistently is running at about 3 hours as well, with a 5-minute break in the middle.
Yeah, anything over 2 hours definitely requires a break in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So we currently just stream 1 game on the channel. We shoot for like 2 hours.
That's a good block of time. Our Masks game was about 2 hours. I think it was 2.5 because there's stuff you do after the session.
Yeah.
That we decided to do on stream so people could see how that worked mechanically.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you can run a pretty good game in 2 hours with 4 players. Mm-hmm. Once you go beyond 4 players, then it gets a little more difficult.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone runs a table for more than 4 players. That is a lot. I look at some of the larger tables, and I've had people tell me stories of DMing for upwards of 17 people, and it's just, wow, that combat must take forever.
Yeah. Well, also it depends. Like, just playing is one thing, streaming's another thing. Are you in person? Are you guys playing virtually?
Yeah.
I think like large groups in person are easier.
Okay.
To probably facilitate, and also like people can kind of interact with each other when they're not involved in whatever scene's going on. I know like there had been times when we've seen tables up to like 13 or 14, but we prefer 4 to 6 is like the sweet spot. And if we're playing, like if you're playing D&D, I kind of like 6 because you can have 4 people have like kind of like the main roles, and then a couple people do some auxiliary roles. Not that we focus on that too much. Like we had a session 0 last month, and like a couple of the players were like, "Oh, I want to be a rogue." I'm like, "Well, you can both be rogues if you want. You can all be rogues if you want. We'll figure it out one way or another."
I've always wanted to be in a party. I've seen them done where they do like all bards or all rogues. I've always wanted to do one of those. I think maybe not for a full campaign, but for a one shot, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
All dwarven fighters. But yeah, like I feel like over the years we've always talked about playing like the crime game, the criminal game, but no one's ever really wanted to do the like, oh, we're all going to be rogues. And I feel like in 5e it gets a lot easier because you can mix it up because of the way the classes work and the backgrounds. It's easier to like infuse a little bit of those roguelike characteristics into your character if you wanted to play like an all crime game. You don't have to worry about is someone going to be disrupting our stealth mission. They could have access to those skills. So
yeah, I really enjoy just unusual table concepts like that. I've also let me ask you this. You brought up the stealth check.
Yeah.
Do you do anything like homebrew wise around stealth checks when you have that one player that consistently ruins them for everyone? There's been a lot of talk about that lately. I'm curious what you do.
Okay, so I guess it just depends on the circumstances. You actually get me thinking in a different direction because you're like homebrew stealth checks, because I have done some weird things with checks in the past. Like a character wanted to blend in with the crowd, so I was like, give me a stealth charisma check.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but for me, it's very like, whatever's going on in the situation. If someone botches a stealth check and they're trying to sneak past the guard, well, then they're probably going to alert the guard. I don't know if it means the guard automatically sees them or knows exactly where they are, but it would really just depend on the circumstances. And now they might have to deal with either, do they have to fight the guard? Can they talk their way through it? And leave it up to them to come up with the outcome. But as far as like, I wouldn't homebrew anything per se. It would just be like, if the party's trying to sneak past the guard and, the paladin's wearing plate mail and starts clanking, you're going to get a, hey, who goes there? Right. And they only see, they're only really probably aware of the character that failed the check. And then from there, we just kind of see what happens.
One of the things that I brought this up on Twitter. I don't remember what account I was talking to, but I brought up an idea a while back of bringing back the like doing it as a skill check instead of just everyone rolling stealth.
Yeah,
doing a skill check of, well, how do you contribute to the stealth of the group? Because stealth is sometimes more than just walking quietly or just being quiet. So I was thinking the other day, like, what if you turn that into like a 4E skill check?
Oh yeah,
what would that look like?
You can definitely do that, like that. And also, like, just some people just do group checks, right? Where it's like, are there more passes than fails than you pass? But I could definitely see it as a group check. I mean, like, maybe the paladin or fighter makes a history check, based on, their knowledge of how, the rounds work for the watch or whatever. Something that would definitely be a cool idea.
Yeah, it's something I've been meaning to incorporate into games. Unfortunately, none of my players so far in the one shots I've run have had to run a stealth check. They all managed to squeak by the areas that require stealth checks.
Yeah,
I'll get you one day.
One day. Well, it's really just it's just a matter of building a different kind of encounter, right? Like I guess you kind of would have to do it beforehand with intent, and maybe it's more complex than just like sneaking past this one guard outpost. Like maybe what might typically be a series of encounters in your game, you make it into one big skill check, and like based on successes or failures, then you could at those particular points determine what might happen and how far along they would get into the check, and where would that put them on the quote unquote map. That could be a lot of fun. When you run skill challenges, do you use, like, I guess in 40, like sometimes there was like associated skills where they wouldn't give you a pass or a fail necessarily, but like they might give you an advantage on, or someone else an advantage on the next check?
Yeah, I usually do best. You need to get 4 out of 5, and you can't use the same skill that someone used ahead of you. But you can do things like if the spellcaster wants to cast a spell to assist, that means the next roll has advantage, that sort of thing. So yeah, I would grant advantages if people didn't necessarily have something in the skill list that they thought applied. I feel like that's fair.
How much time did you, oh, wait a minute. I was going to ask you how much time you spent playing 4A, but you probably didn't.
I've never played it. But I have played with some wonderful DMs who did, and wonderful DMs who have pulled things from other editions. And that's one of the things that I've really, really enjoyed doing is when there's a skill check, because it gets you to think, especially as a role play heavy game, which most of mine are, it gets you to think about your character in a different way. Because my paladin might not necessarily be stealthy, but like you said, like tactically, they may be able to help out in a different way than, say, the super quiet rogue can. Or my warlock may be super chatty and might be able to provide a distraction by just talking while the rest of the party slips around behind. So it's one of those things that I really enjoy, thinking of my characters differently than just the point and magic missile.
Have you looked at the Strixhaven book?
I haven't yet.
So in there,
it's on my list of things to look at.
On there, we have a section for taking quizzes, And I thought like there's a
Oh,
lot that
really?
can be extrapolated from that to doing mini skill challenges.
Huh.
Because generally it's like you have to make 2 checks with
Mm-hmm.
2 different skills, and then just depending, like you either fail or you pass, or you kind of like knock it out of the park depending
Mm-hmm.
on your checks. So I thought that was kind of like an interesting example of bringing back like mini skill challenges into
Oh,
into
that's cool.
5e.
I'll have to look into that. I didn't pick up Witchlight, and I didn't pick up Strixhaven because I was secretly hoping I'd get invited to play, which did happen for Witchlight. So I didn't want to buy them and like spoil the fun as a player. But I mean, once Strixhaven is out of the public eye and D&D is on just whatever the new shiny toy is, I'll probably pick it up then and look through it then.
Yeah, you never know when that's going to happen, because like we were just talking about this on, I think maybe it was Friday on here, but it just seems like everyone's playing Curse of Strahd, even though that's like been out a long time.
I wonder if it's just because everyone was just in longer campaigns and waiting to do Strahd.
Yeah.
But it feels like everyone has a Strahd campaign right now.
Yeah. There's been a run of them. I don't know. Maybe the dark times of 2020 spawned Ravenloft for us all.
I mean, it could be. I know they did the Strahd revamp, but it was even after that everyone started trending towards doing Strahd. It didn't coincide with the release of the special edition of Ravenloft.
No, it's just like a random thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we actually started playing Curse of Strahd soon after the pandemic. Like, a group of us said, okay, I guess we're gonna have extra time together, so we'll do extra time in general, so let's do a Saturday morning group. And we started playing the Frozen Sick, and then after that was about wrapped up with one of the other players is like, I'd really like to play Curse of Strahd. So one of the other GMs is like, I'll run that. And then we ran through Curse of Strahd, and now we're taking turns GMing and just different domains of dread.
Yeah, I mean, I'd really like to play through a Strahd campaign one day, but it is a trend. I didn't realize it until you said something, but yeah, there's a lot of Strahd when I scroll through who's currently live playing D&D.
I didn't realize it until like half the guests that came on, and I'm like, yeah, what are you guys playing? And they're like, Strahd. So
yeah, I'm the exact opposite with the pandemic. I need lighthearted and fun.
Yeah.
I need goofy Witchlight.
Well, I will say our Strahd was probably more like Scooby-Doo, so
okay. That's the kind of Strahd I would like. I've also been looking at Vampire the Masquerade, and I finally saw someone else on Twitter talk about that game in the way that I would want to play a vampire game, which is like what we do in the shadows.
Oh, okay.
I want the dumb bumbling vampires.
I haven't watched that yet, but I need to.
Oh, it's very good. It's one of my all-time favorites. I don't normally like things that are live interview, faux documentary style, but it hits all the sweet spots. And one of my favorite actors, Matt Berry, is in it. And I think he's just wonderful.
The main selling point for me was my brother was telling me about the psychic vampire who just likes to get stuck in traffic because people are so angry.
He's so feeds good. On them. They're all five of the leads on that show are so good, and the people they bring on, the character actors they bring on to play the peripheral characters as they go through the story, these main characters are equally just as wonderful. I think. I don't know. It's one of those shows that just it hits every note just right.
Yeah, we almost did like a D&D stream game, kind of like the documentary type, reality show type. Like we did do it, but we didn't go full bore, which I considered, but it just seemed like a lot of work. And so we did Dungeons and Delving, and the idea was like it's modern times, but there's a reality show called Dungeons and Delving where teams get together to form adventuring parties, and they get run through these faux dungeons that were created for them to run through, and there's different objectives, and they have dungeon runs that are timed, and then and then there's like an audience that also like gets to call in and vote on their favorite
I love that
teams.
idea.
Yeah, so like part of it was like the idea was like, well, we could do like confession booth style segue videos and insert them, but I was like, oh, that seems like a lot of work.
I think if you're doing that, you have to do like you would have to pre-record the game if you want to do and like do the insertion of the confessional area. I think that would have to be live. Well, I've seen a few people talk about doing that sort of thing, but logistically, as someone who's a showrunner, logistically that's a nightmare, and that requires a team of people to pull off.
We would do what we just called asides and like have like people just like pop in and just do like some quick commentary, even though like something's going on. But I did think about it, and there's definitely a way to do it that we could have inserted them. But yeah, on the producing side, it would be a lot of work.
Yeah,
and then like you know what would end up happening? Like we would like pre-record and make them, and probably forget to put them in.
That sounds like me inserting graphics into my YouTube videos.
Yeah, it happens.
I didn't forget anything that was supposed to go into the last video. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Did you realize after it went live, after you put it up?
Yeah, I did. I'm not good. The thing I'm bad at, I got the first call to action and the second call to action, which is, the like, comment, subscribe thing.
Yeah.
I forgot to do I had a shtick for the one that was supposed to go in the middle. It was a little skit and I forgot to put it in. So it's going to go in a future video.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely sympathize with that. We don't currently edit our videos, but we used to, and I used to do it, and it's all there's always something that either gets missed or or maybe it's your fifth time doing that video because the software keeps crashing, and by that time you don't even know what's supposed to be in there anymore.
Or someone kind-heartedly comes through and helps you organize your computer, but they move the files, and then Premiere Pro cannot find the files when you go to reopen it, and you have to go back and find all the files again.
Oh no!
Yep. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah. No, I would love to do I think I'd like to do some more like high-level pre-recorded TTRPG content. Not that I need anything else on my plate, but I don't know. Maybe that's the next thing that I push my games into, to just take it to the next level.
Now, are your games, are they live on Twitch and then they get re-uploaded over to YouTube?
I multi-stream.
Okay.
Yeah, it's live. We're live in both places. I'm hoping that as my YouTube presence grows, that I'll be able to just move away from Twitch entirely, because it's no big secret. Like, Amazon is not a great company. I don't take income from my Twitch channel. All my income from Twitch goes to the trevorproject.org, and that's my own personal charity project that I've been doing. But I would really love to just fully move away from having my main audience over there and just getting them all over to YouTube eventually. But we're working on it. They're slowly finding me. But it's very difficult when you're a creator to make transitions like that, especially when you have a large number of people coming every single week to see you, and on one platform and not on the other. Yeah,
the crossover from platform to platform is generally terrible.
Yeah,
right. Like very few people have I seen do it well and successful. There is one TikToker that actually did a pretty good job of moving his TikTok audience over to YouTube, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah, especially with TikTok right now, the way their algorithm is set up, it works against a lot of a lot of creators, because it doesn't value the way that users use the app. It wants you to it wants everyone from go to their following feed first of accounts they already follow, but no one goes to their following feed. Everyone wants to be on the FYP, the For You page, because that's like its big thing.
Page? I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, it's if you swipe over, there's a second feed there that says following, And
I don't know
that's
if I believe
everyone
you.
you've ever followed. Yeah.
This sounds like fake news.
No, it is. And that's why you'll see creators with millions of followers, but they're only getting 100 or so likes on their videos right now, because you have to get so many likes on the following feed before they even put you in the For You page now. So it's a whole big drama. There's a whole big reason psychologically why it doesn't work. So we're all just hoping that TikTok fixes it.
Maybe someday. Yeah, like, so I went over there originally thinking, like, I don't know, like every creator, you're like, oh, there's another platform. Do I need to be here too? And started playing with it a little bit. And I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just old. And mostly just became a lurker. More recently, like, because we had a Kickstarter going on, I was like, well, maybe I can upload part of the Kickstarter video over here. And it got struck for, like, copyright or something. I'm like, it's mine.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, everybody just uses songs that belong to other people, like literally, like owned by actual artists, and they're like, this is something that we own, and it got like struck, and they're like, no.
Really? Wow. Yeah, it's something that's very valuable to me, because people, they find me and they get invested in what I do on that platform, and they want to see how that translates into a game. It's been a first introduction to D&D for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Who follow me, so they want to come and they want to see me playing Lucy, and what does she actually look like in combat? What does she look like with these other characters that we've heard about? Because my table mates, they don't do TikTok. One does, but he's only posted like 2 videos. And so they want to see they hear about these other characters, and they want to see these other characters too. So it's from a marketing standpoint, it has been very good for us, but it was definitely a throw everything at the wall and see what sticks process for me, because they don't want they want the clips from Twitch over there. They don't want those clips of actual gameplay footage. But they do like the cosplay content that I do. So
I wonder if you can like do some lip sync stuff where you grab some of the audio from clips and use that over there.
I've thought about it. I think I'm gonna. I have one of my friends who's really good at audio editing. I think I'm gonna give him some key moments and see, with the other players' permission, see if they'll let me do that. But that just, the problem with it is that once that audio is uploaded there, I can't stop other people from using it. So I do have to be selective. I do have to have everyone's permission ethically to do that, which I doubt that any of them would stand in the way of me doing that. But it's one of those things that there's a lot that I have to think about, since it does involve other people's characters.
Sure.
And it not being my intellectual property necessarily that I'm using. But yeah, I have thought about doing that. I think I've had some zingers of a moment here and there with my characters, so I think it would be real fun.
But even if someone else used it, wouldn't it still cite you as the original sound? Yes,
but I can't do anything about the context in which they use it.
Well, that's true.
So do I want someone doing something incredibly lewd while my voice is coming out of their mouth is the kind of thing that I have to think about, because people get mad at you on the internet for everything. So
that's true. I mean, technically they could probably just still steal it and do it, but it is an extra step.
Yeah.
So I don't know. TikTok is a completely new and strange thing to me, in a good way. Like, I think it's one of the more innovative things to come to TTRPGs since probably Critical Role.
Yeah.
And it's, given voice to a lot of different people. The demographics are skewed much differently over there, than over on like YouTube per se. So it's good, and the barrier to entry is really low.
It is, and it's pushing all the other social media platforms to think about their platforms differently. I've also had a lot of success over on Instagram, recycling my content for Reels over there.
Yeah. And
primarily, that's how my audience tracks where I'm live when. They don't use Twitter. You see the I'm live now tweets all the time, but the Twitter algorithm also works against us in that most people aren't on the most recent tweets. No one signs up for alerts on Twitter. The YouTube alert bell works maybe a third of the time for most people. But on Instagram, I can post a reel or a story 24 hours ahead of time with a countdown timer, and people can click the countdown timer and set an alarm through the app that goes off when that timer hits 0. So I've had a lot of success with driving traffic to Twitch and YouTube for my lives based on that, because they get the alarm when they're meant to get the alarm. And then they go, oh yeah, Nexus Adventures is starting. Let me go to my computer and watch. So that's been really great.
Oh, that's a cool tip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's also depressing. My personal Facebook got hacked and then banned.
Oh no.
Which our Instagram was connected to. Mm-hmm. Which also obliterated that. It was like 7,000 followers or something.
Gosh.
Yeah, and then so like I finally was able to get a Facebook account back, and after like a year, and then start another Instagram, but like I just don't actually have the heart to do anything really on Facebook or Instagram anymore.
It's really hard when you face setbacks like this on social media, like what you went through. And like I've had some too, where just I had the trolls come for me in force on some posts, and when you have setbacks like that, or you have things that go wrong like that, it's like a personal attack almost, and it takes a lot of the joy out of it for you.
Sometimes it is a personal attack, literally.
Yeah. I have my luckily I have everything on 2-factor authentication right now.
That did not help. It basically in real time, it's like, hey, do you want to sign in from Germany? Like, no, I would like to not sign in from Germany. And you're like, well, too bad.
Oh wow. Sounds like the failure was on their system's part. That's wild.
Yeah, and then it's like, it's so bad you can't get a hold of anybody, you can't talk to a person, so it's just like, it's such a hassle. But
that's
my understanding, like from a lot of TikTokers, is like, they're like, I'm on my 6th account. Like I would have gave up a long time ago.
Yeah. But there. I mean, I understand they're pioneering something technically, and understanding how you need to moderate a platform like that is a whole new territory for them. I get it. I get how hard it is. I worked for IT and I worked in product development on some projects, so I understand how hard the technical stuff is to get right. And so I try to give them a little leeway with it, but it is incredibly frustrating, because when you get a strike against you over there, you only get so many in I believe it's a 90-day period before your account is just gone. Yeah. There's no way to reach people there. I had one video that was taken down for nudity, and I was in this sweater.
Yeah.
I was in this sweater. You could see as much of me. And so I have a strike against me for that, and there's no one that I can go to. And it just sucks, because a bunch of trolls just decide to go to my account and mass report me for indecency. I'm about as spicy as oat milk, like.
Damn the Hype Goblin and their sweater porn.
How dare I wear these horizontal stripes from free people on the internet? How vile of me.
Yeah. Brian Smith wants to know, any good house rules that make streaming D&D more entertaining?
There are some things that you can tweak as far as gameplay goes. I would say, first off, being prepared, making sure that everyone at the table is prepared to play their character that they're playing, and the DM is prepared to running the encounters that they're going to run, and has an understanding, which sounds a little bit like I'm talking down, but you wouldn't believe how many streams are stopped dead in their tracks because wait, I don't know what I'm doing on my turn. Hang on, let me figure it out. And the player is taking a few minutes to figure out what they're doing. So that's the first thing, is just making sure everyone understands that we're doing this as an entertainment piece. Yes, we might just be friends putting our home game on the internet, but once you put something out publicly, you're an entertainer, and you have to think about it from that perspective, and you have to come prepared. And just like a musician knows their set list, you have to know your character. So making sure everyone just has a few minutes prior to game to spend 5 minutes looking over their sheet and reminding them, hey, take 5 minutes, look over your sheet, is a good way to start. As far as homebrew rules go, we've recently adopted something on Nexus which has changed the way our combat moves drastically, which is if we have NPCs that are traveling with us, not what we're fighting against, but if we have NPCs traveling with us, we currently have 2, because it made sense for the story arc. Instead of having the DM manage the full encounter and the 2 NPCs in combat, our DM has handed players the NPC sheets during combat and may give direction, but for the most part, the players are running them mechanically in game. So we just did a really big combat last session, and one of the players running the NPCs was told, hey, it's Jack's turn. The guy who kidnapped the love of his life just did XYZ, play it accordingly. Wanting to still have that story beat and still have it be communicated that this NPC was an integral part of our story and what was happening in that moment. And then the player then made the decision in combat of what that NPC would do based on what we already knew about him. And giving that to the players to run has made things so much simpler for the DM. And I think the more you simplify things for the DM, the faster paced you can make things and the more cinematic you can make things. But yeah, when it comes to running something that's entertaining on stream, it's all about showing up prepared to run something entertaining and making it as simple as you can on the person that's running the game. In my opinion, there might be some other things that people smarter than me know, but those are the 2 things that have made the world of difference for me in my game.
That makes sense. Even like not necessarily stream, but home games generally, if there are for whatever reason NPCs traveling with the party, I just have them fade back and like they're dealing with something, and unless the story is about those NPCs and what's going on with them in the encounter, I kind of just remove them from the encounter and don't worry about them.
Yeah. We're a very small table for Nexus. We're only 3 players.
Yeah.
So to beef it up a little more when we do want to do, as we get up higher level, we are taking NPCs with us.
Yeah.
Or like we'll have like a guest on and they'll come and play through a heavier story arc with us. We've done that a few times. But occasionally there are times where we need to have NPCs in combat with us because we're 2 spellcasters and a barbarian. We need a little more muscle.
That's fine, because like there's other times where it's more about like what's going on. Like 2 encounters come to mind. One is like there was a Spelljammer game where they're being attacked by Skrull raiders, and their Kraken Spelljammer vessel would just hurl these like boulders at their ship, and when it would hit and land, they would break open. And they were full of flouse snails, or they're actually just flouse snails. And they were like super weak and compared to the party because they were high level. So they were no threat. But so they were going to ignore them and deal with the main problem. But then I was like, well, yes, they're not much of a threat to you, but they are moving towards the crew. And they're going to mash your crew. And so in that regards, like I made all the extra crew a part of the counter in a way. And in other games, I've done things where the players had to go to a spot in the Feywild complete a ritual, but while they were doing it, monsters were just kept pouring. It was a swamp, and monsters just kind of kept coming out of the swamp to this island, and like one of the players was dealing with the ritual while the others were trying to hold them at bay, but they had like this small contingency of Eladrin with them, and instead of like running them all individually, I gave them the option of they could switch back and forth to like who's the leader for the party, and they would make a charisma check. And
that's a good idea.
It's depending on how the charisma check went, determined like did they lose Eladrin this round? Did the Eladrin help do really well and help them overwhelm the incoming enemies? So narratively it was there, and mechanically it was there, but I didn't want to just be like, okay, here's 12 Eladrin, let's make all their attacks and let's have them all get attacked.
Yeah, there's definitely certain circumstances in which we use stuff like that. But definitely, I think the more you can get the players involved with the more chunky aspects of the game, which is typically always combat, I think the more you get them involved, the better it usually ends up being. I've been in large scale combats where we were commanding troops. So like we would have a token and I would not only control my character, but I also had troops that I moved and they had a move that they did. And that was representative of like 150 Earth Genasi fighting against the Eldritch Horror that we were fighting against. So I think just getting creative with things like your combat. The other thing you can do too is set timers for combat, for roleplay. We've done it before where we knew that we had to cover a lot of ground as storytellers in just our roleplay in some games, and so we set timers. We knew we had a physical timer running that said, you got 20 minutes for this scene. When the timer goes off, it fades to black. And so getting used to telling your story in more concise ways in your roleplay can also help make it more entertaining. And that's just thinking of it more like a TV show, honestly, than an epic story that's going to last on and on and on for months and months and months.
Do you show up to all your games in costume?
Yes.
Does
I don't do
anyone
the
else
home
at the
games
table?
so much. I don't do the home games so much anymore, but my stream games, whenever I do a stream game, I'm always in cosplay.
And I noticed you said any more there.
Yeah, yeah, I used to. But here's the thing about being a content creator. It takes a lot of time, and you only see about 1% of the things that we do. So I am usually working like right up until game time on the days that I just have home games. So I don't put those costumes on as much anymore. I show up. Typically, RJ's currently traveling. He's in our Nexus Adventures campaign. Since I've started cosplaying, he's slowly started building cosplays of his characters that he plays. And we actually, when we all got together, all of my best friends got together in Florida for FriendCon, since we couldn't go to Gen Con safely. And we actually did a photo shoot together as our stream, or not our stream characters, but he played the counterpart to my bard from his game that we played privately, and that was really cool. But yeah, no, he started to get into it. I believe the other player at our table, I believe she has purchased a wig for her character. I don't know if anything else has happened beyond that. I haven't gotten any updates.
You're infecting them.
Yeah,
Insidious.
It adds a whole nother layer to the experience. It's kind of like it's taking LARPing from what my understanding of LARPing is. I've never gotten to go to a LARP because global panini. And taking the TTRPGs and just mashing them together, and it's another level to the immersion for me, honestly. Also, it reminds me of who I'm playing when I see what hair color I show up in.
Nice visual cue. Although that's less useful at an in-person game than on like some kind of virtual or streamed game. Yeah. Unless you're just always looking in the mirror.
I mean, you could play an incredibly narcissistic character if you need that reminder. Just walk around with a hand mirror, just looking at yourself.
We've had a mix over the years of people showing up in costume and not showing up in costume. Some players, like if they're talking in their character's voice, it's their character talking. If they're talking as themselves, it's them talking. Everything from that to like someone who only will speak about their character in third person. Yeah, so we've kind of run the gambit.
Yeah. How to have to roll actually right now in chat. There are 2 other fantasy cosplayers. So if anyone else is looking for more people who do fantasy role playing, they just started their channel. They are fantastic. I know cool. Robin is one of the ones that helped me a lot when I first started out. She does some beautiful cosplays of her elves that she plays.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned missing Gen Con, because I went to both Gen Con and PAX Unplugged this year. And I did not get struck with the vid until my daughter brought it home. I went through these like large gatherings without any problems, and but she gets really upset because she's like, "You're blaming me." I was like, "Nobody's blaming you. You just had the symptoms first."
Yeah.
So probably.
Yeah. I because of my own personal health reasons, I can't go. safely, unfortunately. I went on an airplane to go to Florida to see my friends, and that was a huge ordeal for me just to make that work. And then we also have immunocompromised people that we care for. My day job is being an elderly caregiver for someone in my family, and then we also have another family member who can't get the vaccine because of their pre-existing conditions. So there's too much risk if I contract it for myself and then just everyone that I come in contact with. So I just live in my bubble, and I put on pretty clothes every once in a while and some elf ears.
I pretty much I don't go many places anyway. So we are at the hour mark. Final thoughts before we head on out?
Thanks for having me. This has been so much fun.
Well, thanks for coming on, Sarah. I really appreciate it. As always, folks, links are in the description. Go check them out. Go follow the Hype Goblin across the interwebs. Stalk them in the good way, not the creepy way. And until next time, stay nerdy.
Bye, everyone.